Welcome back to What If We Did Not Become Emperor. Instead, we will trust the Senate to do the right thing, which will prove troublesome, I'm pretty sure of that, but we'll see. We have to kill Loco, of course.
Why didn't I stay in Rome? Why? There will always be more obstacles for me to conquer, and I will conquer them.
Oh, you have made me mad now.
Let's end this once and for all.
You've been dreaming of this since the day your father died.
Let's be benevolent. Beg for mercy and I may decide to let you live.
And then what? Will you parade me through the streets in your triumph? Unlike you, I have dignitas. I am a consul of Rome. I shall not die like a filthy barbarian. I shall die like a true Roman. It seems the part I intended my role to be in molding the first emperor of Rome. When I am dead, your reign will begin.
A swift death is for those who deserve mercy. You do not.
Are you just gonna watch me bleed out?
No. I'm not that cruel. Vale, Loco.
It's finally over. It almost seems unreal.
Oh, what a relief.
Yeah. Maybe now we can stop looking over our shoulder.
You have violated every single rule we set out to protect in the first place. You have killed Romans. Senators, even.
I'm not proud of myself, but the path I have steered me this way. It is foolish to resist their plans.
There's one thing you get to decide for yourself now.
We must submit ourselves to the judgment of the Senate, as we discussed. Only then can we begin to undo some of the damage we have caused.
Are you stupid? Did you hit your head in battle? We will all be killed.
Not all of us. He will probably be condemned to death indeed, but we will not be punished as harshly.
We should not get punished at all. We should take over Rome and live like kings.
The Anira is right. Surrender will only lead to execution.
But, Magister, surely morals dictate that he should surrender. Doing anything else would be immoral, and thus make him a lesser man.
He is like my own child. He would be a lesser man, but a man who is alive.
They will not just let us go. We all attacked.
Well, I certainly do not want to be executed.
May I remind you what you have just said about the expected behavior of a moral individual?
I don't consider myself a particularly moral man yet.
I don't care about the philosophy of it. If you stay here, more people will die and the chaos will never end. We don't have to turn ourselves in if you're afraid of the consequences. I'm sure Cleopatra will protect you if you flee to Egypt.
You are right. I have violated every virtue and every tenet of our society. This was all about making sure Loco faced justice. He has disbanded the Legion. I will submit myself to the Senate.
I admire your principled stance, Domine. But do you understand the consequences? They are likely to execute you. Are you sure you want to do this?
You owe nothing to Rome. This city owes you everything. Let us just leave then, if you will not take power. Leave with me.
Is it the only right thing to do?
I understand.
You are a flawed man, but you are brave. I wish you would just leave. But if this is your choice, so be it.
You have made the moral choice. You are a greater man as a consequence. I still am not as great as you. If they kill you, I will kill them.
You will give up what we have together? For what? Lofty ideals of your own invention? I thought our love meant more than that.
It seems unfathomable that a man would go to such lengths to seize power, only to turn away from it at the last moment and willingly give up his life. Was it guilt that drew him to throw himself at the mercy of the Senate? Or was it principle? After all, if all he cared about was keeping the Republic safe from unscrupulous men, that goal had been achieved. Whatever his reasoning, after his surrender, all blame for the invasion of Rome was placed squarely at his feet. His companions and allies, and the soldiers of his legion, thus escaped condemnation and punishment. Following his execution, a time of great turmoil swept across Rome. The short but bloody civil war had exposed the fragility and the injustice of the Republic, and discontented mobs seized this opportunity to rise up and demand change. As the power of the Senate crumbled, so did the Republic. Rome fell, never again to rise as the global power that it had seemed destined to become. Shortly after his beloved Dominus was executed, Cineros drank hemlock and took his own life. In his heart, he knew he had failed to guide his ward down the right path, and the despair weighed heavily upon him. Moreover, he had failed in his solemn oath to his old Dominus, whose death had kicked off this story. Though he never got to see his homeland again, he knew at least that he had redeemed himself in the eyes of the gods, and he was able to meet his end with his head held high, unburdened by the mistakes of his youth. Caeso left Rome with Lucia and their daughter. They traveled to Africa, as Caeso remembered the warm nights and the lush Nile Delta fondly. Here they found a place to settle and made a peaceful home for their family. Though their relationship was distant at first, their devotion to their child drew them together, and their affection for each other grew stronger through the years. To his surprise, Caeso took well to fatherhood, and soon he and Lucia had many more children. Despite her disillusionment with Rome and everything it stood for, Callida was at least finally vindicated in the eyes of the law. Around that same time, her mother passed away, and Callida reconciled with her brother Aulus, whom she forgave for not standing up to their parents. Thanks to Callida's talent for spycraft, she deftly maneuvered the turmoil that swept across Rome in the wake of her friend's execution. And with her help, her family business thrived. After the death of his friend, Bestia returned to the arena once more, but he was no longer a gladiator. His new vocation was to teach Pancration, inspired by the example of his Magister Cineros. He applied himself to this new calling with every bit of the vigor and determination that had made him a champion before. As soon as things had quieted down, Bestia traveled to Africa once more to look for his sister. He did find her and bring her home, and she lived happily there for the rest of her life. Though she had achieved her vengeance and forgiven herself for her misdeeds, the death of her beloved darkened Deianira's days forever. Though she did return to her family, she soon left them again for the life of a wanderer, shunning the company of others who would only remind her of what she had lost. Claudiana lived for many more years. She had many friends in Rome, and her life was peaceful and comfortable until her final days. On her deathbed, she revealed that she had once been very close indeed with Lucullus, and that indeed the true family name of her children was Licymnia. Defeated once more by Rome, Mithridates escaped to the lands north of the Black Sea in the hope that he could raise a new army, but the locals soon rebelled against his rule. Incapable of taking his own life by poison, in the end Mithridates died by the sword of his bodyguard. With Zenobia in charge of Musia, it became once more a peaceful part of the Roman province of Asia Minor. With her focus on trade and strong ties to the neighboring regions, her people enjoyed a period of great prosperity. Without the leadership of Damianos, the rebellion of his gladiators soon spiraled out of control, beginning what became known as the Servile War. Escaped slaves terrorized the Roman citizens throughout Thracia until the wealthy senator Crassus brutally defeated them and crucified thousands along the road towards Rome. Lunia's death sent Nazarmanes spiraling into a fractious conflict as greedy elders from minor tribes attempted to fill the void her passing had left behind. Though Queen Cleopatra attempted to bring the region under control, her attentions were too divided, the conflict too great for her to manage. Rome was forced to send more legions to enforce peace and stability with an iron fist. Though Africa Proconsularis eventually saw peace again, the traditions and culture of the Berber population were lost forever. Queen Cleopatra Philopator was, from the day of her coronation, a greatly beloved Queen of Egypt. Revered and admired by the population, she spent many of her days traveling up and down the Nile to visit her subjects and address their troubles and concerns. Under her rule, Egypt remained a powerful and prosperous nation and a strong ally of Rome. The fruits of the Nile flowed freely to the people of the Republic. After traveling all across Africa for many years, going wherever her instincts took her, Rhea eventually returned to Memphis and to the service of Tener at the Temple of Ubasti. When her mentor passed away, Rhea naturally assumed the mantle as High Priestess of the Cat Goddess. Though the old faith was dwindling, she was greatly beloved by many, and her temple prospered, always home to many, many, many cats. With Dioteuchus once more assuming rulership of the Aedui, the tribe maintained a strong alliance with Rome, and through it, they greatly prospered. With the aid of the Aedui, Gallia slowly unified under Roman rule, and civilization soon began to creep into those lands in the form of paved roads, aqueducts, and fortified Roman towns. In his old age, did the Druid ever regret hastening the absorption and suppression of his own faith and culture? We will never know. The defeat and death of Vercingetorix had reduced the once mighty Awerni tribe to a myriad bickering chieftains. Without his vision, his charisma, and his resolve, there was no unifying figure to rally around, and no way for Gallia to resist their slow but inevitable assimilation into Rome. Perhaps if Vercingetorix had lived, some of their culture or religion might have survived in some form. But surely they must be grateful that civilization at last was brought to their lands. In this work, I have done my best to recount the history of this fascinating period, truthfully and accurately. As I have scoured the sources and spoken to many who claimed to have heard the story from someone who was there at the time, one thing that has stood out to me is the pivotal moments along the way where our story could have turned out very differently. If the Legatus had not surrendered, the Republic might not have been torn apart by civil war, and I believe Rome could have remained a major power to this day. Perhaps it seemed that the only way to save Rome was to become its first emperor. But what if the Legion had never crossed the Rubicon? I believe the conflict could have been resolved with less bloodshed. There is no doubt such a decision would have brought great personal risk to the Legatus, however, and the cost could have been great. One should always take care when second-guessing historical figures with the benefit of hindsight. Here in the present, there will never truly be a way for you to know how you might have acted if you had lived in the past. Nor can you ever be certain how history will remember you.
So that's not the last ending. Now we're going back to the market square when we didn't march into Rome, and we will let our friends die, or a friend die. And I guess that route will take us to Consul. I mean, it's interesting to see the what-ifs of the story of Rome, and that as a benevolent emperor, the future of Rome was saved. The problem just is, a king isn't a bad idea if you get the right person to do the job, but what happens if that person dies? Will the next one also be benevolent? At that point, you will have a system where he will have nigh infinite power, and if he's evil, if he gets corrupted, then you have a problem. That is why we maybe need a system where democracy reigns, but a leader is chosen with greater power than the systems that we currently have. Maybe it's a better system. For king and emperor has a grave risk. What happens? I repeat myself. If the person worthy dies, there is no guarantee that the system will bring forth another one worthy to bring Rome to salvation. So, until we meet again.